joined today with my colleague, Alok. So Alok, can you give a quick introduction?
Sure. Thank you, CP. I'm Alok Rajput. I'm director with Alvarez and Marsal. I currently lead GRC and incident response practice at Alvarez and Marsal.
Okay. So what we are going to do today is that we have so far since last 5 years investigated over 100 cyber incidents, and we have a lot of lessons learned. Largely the root causes, the information that we share with stakeholders, board, decision making, lot of reports that goes to financial crime and also to regulators. So what we are going to do is that whatever we have learned based on those 100 incidents, we have combined it into 2 parts, and then we are going to play the assessment here. So how this presentation today is structured, it is structured into 4 parts. The first part is that where we are going to give you certain context around our learnings regarding stakeholders. The second part will be a case study, which will be a quick to show that how a breach and compromise has happened in one of the recent clients. Then we have divided our session into 2 parts. One where we will see the incident response from the lens of technical perspective, and then second from the crisis communication perspective. And it will be an interactive exercise. It will not take much time, but you will just need your mobile phones, and then we will see how the responses are, and then we will proceed further. So let me get started. So when cyber incidents happen, generally what we have seen is that most of the firms now have matured. They have some sort of incident response plan, they have playbooks, they also have a crisis management booklets, and they also do some tabletop exercises. RBI mandates it. A lot of regulatory firms we have seen is that now matured enough that they have a set of processes. But still, most of the time when an incident happens and when we go, we see that the basic premise of this, which is who is in charge, who is taking decisions, who is taking a call in any type of response, be it technical response, regulatory response, management response like informing board, is still not so clear. There are certain things which people do it because naturally they think, and there are certain things which people believe, and then they get into lot of, I would say, passing the buck, so that who is going to take calls when real decision making comes in. So how many people agree that it is a CISO who is responsible in cyber crisis? And I'm not talking about incident of high priority, but a crisis. Like your core banking is down, or your key critical applications are down, or your CRM is down, or customers are not able to log in. Or really a large volume of data is leaked and you have come to know that millions of customer details or card details are out. How many people believe it the CISO is responsible? Not too sure? Okay, so many people feel that is the Chief Information Security Officer that is responsible during cyber crisis because they believe that he is the person who is owning the hat. He ultimately is a CXO, he reports to risk office, and because he comes from a domain expertise, he is the person who should be responsible and accountable. But in large cases, if you see, it is the information security incidents where the CISO is responsible. But when it comes to crisis, the decisions are taken at a level of an organization. And many a times, CISO may not have the authority to decide. So generally, we say that during the time of crisis, your chain of command has to be the highest of highest order. Like say, for example, if you need to pay a ransom, it is not CISO's call, right? Because he does not have that authority to decide whether it is appropriate to do it or not. Similarly, if it comes to certain governance activities, or with respect to, say, informing stakeholders, maybe a major customers, then what will be the implication? It is the business or a lead partners that can decide and not the CISO. But CISO is a technical Spock. You can say that he will hold the chair as far as technical response is concerned. But when it comes to management response or regulatory response, CISO may not be the right authority. Many times people believe that it is the CTO who should do because CISO is still governance body. He is a control function, right? So he is detecting an incident, he will do the root cause, he will do the forensics, he will do the basic isolation, but who is going to take real decisions? Systems has to be rebuilt. Disaster recovery has to be activated. It is the CTO because he knows how to add rules in the firewall, what kind of connections to block, how to rebuild the systems, how to take restoration of servers as well as database, so on and so forth. But actually that is also not the truth because CTO is also on the same boat as CISO because he is still not the highest authority and not the, even though he is an operations body, he will be instrumental in rebuilding systems, starting disaster recovery or restoring applications and systems and databases and services, but still he is not the authority to manage cyber crisis. So that's why we termed this session as a cyber crisis management because you have a technical response, but you also have a management and regulatory response. Most people can say CRO because Chief Risk Officer report directly to the audit committee. He is the person whom even CISO reports in most of the financial organizations because of regulatory requirements. And because his job is to manage risk, and cyber risk is one of the risks, he should be the chair of cyber crisis and take decisions. But again, we will say that he is not an executive body. Decisions are also executive level decisions, right? To pay a ransom is an executive level decision. To inform partners or how to converse with regulators, a lot of these decisions are executive decisions and not the decisions which are risk management. Then many people may say board. If you can show a race, like it's a governance body, right? How many people believe board should be responsible for managing cyber crisis or taking decisions? Anybody who believes? No? So most people believe boards are not responsible. See, while boards are responsible from corporate governance perspective, which includes cyber governance, so when you will do, they will ensure that are you compliant with your regulatory requirements? Are you informing the incident within 6 hours to CERT? If you are governed by RBI or TRI, whatever, are you informing them or SEBI? Is your segregation of duties, somebody who is managing your SOC is investigating or a third party who is independent is investigating? Who is doing incident response and forensics? So this is the responsibility of board. The responsibility of board is to ensure that regulatory compliance is ensured, right incident response and forensics is happening, governance of the management of crisis is happening, whether to pay a ransom or not to pay a ransom is not a board's decision, right? It's an executive decision. Board cannot take an executive call. Board can govern and say whether it is legal or not, but if it is in your policy, it's legal, you may want to do it. So that's why actually it is the CEO or the MD who is the head of all executive is responsible and accountable for managing cyber crisis, right? So let's quickly look at it, what happens during cyber crisis. We know that situation is chaotic, and this is our lessons learned that we have done, that when we see a cyber crisis, most of the time, we identify that people do cyber crisis simulations. They do tabletop exercises. During the tabletop exercises, a lot of people are saying, different things. That what will happen if data exfiltration happens, things comes in media, what happens if internal employees are not aware and known. And it's very easy. But when things happen, it is like if you have to see, you have to play a war. If you have to do the war in Siachen, you can't be sitting here and practicing. The situation, the tension will be so different that your actions will be different. So what we have seen is that even in the best companies where there are a lot of known games, known cyber crisis playbooks, they do simulations. When real thing happens, people really are not aware. And sometimes they keep saying, go and get this person's approval, then I will do this, whether I should, inform the regulator, it is the right time, do I know enough? And then all these questions comes in. But when you are in tabletop, should I inform CERT within 6 hours? Yes, you should. But what should go? Should I inform? What are you going to inform? Oh, I don't know anything about the incident. First, I should focus on incident response. But I do not know how much information to give. Still, I do not know even the root cause. So a lot of these questions comes into the picture, right? Situation is generally chaotic, and there are multiple moving parts. If a ransomware has happened, while you are isolating some incidents, you are trying to identify whether it is going to affect others or not. But you still have to respond to regulator because 6 hours is passing. You still have to see whether your business resumption is possible or not. You activate a DR or not. You have to inform cyber insurance. Who is going to inform the board? So there is a management response, there is a regulatory response, and their technical response all go hand in hand. Similarly, there is a lot of anxiety, fear, and uncertainty that leads to it. So what we generally say is that there are 3 types of responses. Your technical response. So your CISO and CTO will be focusing on this. If you have the right cyber crisis team, you know that cyber crisis team is going to be governed by the CISO. He will be the chair. So he will be taking the decisions and a call. While all other people from the CTO team, be it application, network, databases, endpoint, they all will be a part of the crisis team. They will be acting on guidance of a CISO. So they will be doing the isolation. They will be reviewing the ransomware. They will be reviewing the indicator of compromise. They might be doing containment in terms of how can we fast contain it. If there is a known ransomware, what are the indicator of compromise that we can quickly update and then start to run and see hyper monitoring if the other systems are infected, so on and so forth. You may parallelly be rebuilding. You may be knowing it's a ransomware attack. We may not be able to recover from it while we are containing it. Why not start parallel rebuilding of the systems? So these are technical responses. Then there is a regulatory response, right? And there is a management response. So management response is about informing board and regulator, which CEO will do, informing law enforcement. If it is a case of data loss, cross-country, insider threat, or a money that has been transferred because of business email compromise, you have to involve your law enforcement because Only the law enforcement can act in a multi-country environment. Your cyber insurance provider, business partners, if they're affected, communication, so on and so forth. Then there is a regulatory response. Here, what I want to mention is that, see, if you look at it from a regulator perspective, when you are informing the regulator, it's like you are informing that an incident has happened. But what a regulator is looking at? A regulator is looking at cascading impact if it's a national critical infrastructure. If not, what he is looking at, have you identified the root cause? Was there an insider involved? Have you done a detailed forensics to see that it has been done by an independent party and not a party who is already offering, say, SOC as a service or security testing as a service, etc. And they want to also understand that have you learned your lessons and what are the recommendations that it will not happen next time. So most of the time when you deal with regulators, eventually they will ask that within 21 days you have to submit, a forensics and incident response report. But these will be the questions that we'll be asking because this is what their concern is. Similarly, if you are a listed company and if you go to SEBI or if you go to, say, auditors, auditors will be interested in whether this impacted any controls or financial reporting. Does it cause financial loss, which can be material? Can it bring a class action suit? Because he has to put it into this risk. Can you be subject to regulatory penalties? Or does it have any impact on financial reporting? Means it has simply gone into a where data exfiltration or unauthorized access has happened to your SAP system, say, for example, where invoices are there, right? Now, this is an interesting slide. When we investigate 100+ incidents, lot of time if you go into conferences, you will see people are talking big things, nation-state actors, cyber criminals, etc., etc. What our studies suggest that almost 80% of the cyber incidents are happening because of just three things. Unpatched software because in the vulnerabilities which are getting exploited, phishing or social media and bypassing multi-factor still is number one, and certain misconfigurations in brute force that is happening. This is still causing 80% of the time. Wherever we go, we say that people have become subject to social, some sort of social or phishing things. They ended up giving credentials, they ended up bypassing multi-factors, and then access happened. All business email compromises generally happens through that. Most of the ransomware are happening because of misconfiguration. You misconfigured cloud environment, you misconfigured one of the server, or there are vulnerabilities which are not patched. Only 20% of them are actually complex malwares or website defacement or real work of nation-state actors. That's what our experience has been. If you see 100% victims have anti-malware, which means that anti-malware, even EDR is not working. There are many easy EDR bypass techniques which are getting used. So configuration of tools is important. What we have learned is that you may have tens of security tools, but they are as good as the rules you configure. If you have configured appropriately even your firewall and EDR and a patch management system, and you recently take care of your misconfigurations, you can avoid 80% of the cyber attacks. And this is reality, it's still the basics and not really the next generation user behavior analytics and so on and so forth, while they are all important. 43% breaches reported by third parties, and we see 100% of breaches as stolen credentials. So still, username, password, and bypassing multi-factor authentication has been seen in almost all type of incident. So now we jump into the second part. What we will do is that we will quickly see a case study. I will have Alok jump into it. Alok, you can cover this.
Yeah, thank you, CP. So I'll take you to a case study where we recently investigated a case. I'll give you a little bit insight about the organization, what they are. So it's a well-established fintech firm with over 1,000 employees across the globe. It's kindly well-established with a good turnaround. The security measures were in place. They had a decent endpoint protection on their system. They have good enterprise-grade firewall. Then security solutions for email protections, and everything they had to defend their network. They also had MFA enabled for all the critical applications, even for their email accesses. MFA enabled users were like, okay, MFA is there. I don't have to worry about my account. That's what the main objective of the user is when you tell them that enable your MFA. Another is that they were also certified by ISO 27001, so you can assume that they have a decent amount of controls in place, certain processes, policies are being followed. About the incident that I would say, on one fine day, Monday morning, finance team discovered that one of the vendor has not received a payment of their last invoice, right? And they went into a meeting and the vendor mentioned that we have not received anything that you have mentioned. And client was surprised saying that last week only we have processed a payment of few millions of dollars. Now, in that scenario, they validated, investigated, and identified that they received spoof email, uh, which asked for change in the bank account detail, and that's how they made a fraudulent payment. Now, there were few gaps in their existing processes to change the bank account. And then later on, the day they realize this is happening, the procurement manager's email ID seems to be compromised, and suddenly all of the employees within the firm received phishing email from the procurement manager's email ID. So that's built a suspicion that her email ID was compromised. The time when they detected that it's compromised, attacker also knew that I have been exposed. Let me try to propagate further. The attacker sent everything, all similar phishing email to all the contacts of that individual, be it internal employee, be it all the contacts to whom they were interacting. Right. So how it happened? So we'll talk about this. That there is a case called advisor in the middle attack. It's similar to man in the middle, but this happens over the email. Probably a normal user accesses a O65 email. Suddenly, an attacker comes in between. They send malicious HTML that would look like probably an audio file or some file to download. When a user clicks it, it takes her to a malicious proxy page. It's not a normal page that looks and feel like a O65 login page, but actual proxy page. So everything, the content looks similar to the updated Microsoft Office page. The moment you enter your credential, it opens up, it gives you back your page of the same URL that you would have submitted in login page of a Microsoft, your logo and everything. Those details get captured by the attacker. Now once the attacker had it, it asked for an MFA challenge. Now for MFA, even this page was pre-built to capture those responses from the user. The moment the MFA was sent, they captured MFA, but the MFA keep on changing. So what happened when the authentication was successful, a session token gets generated, which is passed to the user. Now this session token was intercepted by this proxy page. Once the session token is captured, the proxy page redirects user to the authenticated actual O65 page, where user didn't feel that they have entered their credential wrong or in some other website. They had the active session of O65. In parallel, attacker got the access to the session token. And the attacker used this session token to build the parallel connection to O65 without user notifying it, understanding that my parallel session is active, somebody else is logged in. And this was active for almost 60 days because the default session token time there was 60 days. Nobody thought of resetting that piece.
Yeah, so before you go into that, this is a classic case. I think there is a kit available which actually does man in middle to steal your multi-factor authentication, right? And once the user got access to your mailbox, it was just monitoring the mails. And it identified there are 2 invoices which are large, which are due next month. And what it does, it knew that these are the 2 vendors on which the invoice are due. He exactly went, created a phish domain, sent an email that my bank account has changed. And the process was also followed in the same way that, okay, this bank account has changed, we are transferring $1. The person clicked confirm. Everything was happening based on the spoof domain. And the process was followed still, the money got transferred. And only almost a month later when the vendor followed up, this was known. And what the user did also is that he created a rule that if any email comes from the right 2 vendors who are going to send, it actually goes into one of the RSS feed. So even if somebody is following up, you are not knowing, and you are actually conversing with this. It's a real story, very recent. And then eventually the firm lost close to $6 million.
Yeah, so now in this scenario, let's understand where did we go wrong, right? From the process side, let's understand that the process was like similar incident happened a few months back in the organization, but and there were few suggestions on that part. However, they didn't bother to inform the board about it because at that point of time, no money was lost. But that was an understanding from the client. Then there were certain delays in informing to the regulators, which they were under impression that they need to do it once they had material information that how did it happen. But that's not the case that usually regulator go for. You need to inform them immediately so that you can stop the payment. There was no incident retainer services onboarded, and because of that, there was a delay in onboarding us. It took them like 2 days to onboard us and investigate. And there was a lack of user awareness that we have seen because the user opened that attachment and entered the credential. Why would somebody enter a credential when they are opening up the attachment?
Yeah, so I want to highlight two quick things. Delay in informing the regulators. Even they had general counsel because it is the legal case, right? General counsel was also not sure whether they need to file I3C, internet, this incident that you have to file it just like CERT. Then only the FBI really takes up the case. You need to give that ID. They were asking that at least you need basic RCA, whether it was an insider or the user himself did it. Then only we can file. And we were telling them that it is not true. The root cause can come later. You are not filing a case to understand who did it. You are filing it based on impact. You lost $6 million. Immediately, when the money is lost, you should inform legal. You have an economic offense wing. You have a cybercrime.gov.in portal. If it had happened in India, you have to go there and file it. Without that, legal will not take it, So even the general counsel did full 1 day delay till the time we said that your account is compromised. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the technical control, let's understand that they had no email security solution in place. They had decent configuration, why DKMI, SPF, everything was done. But the basic security, like identifying the phishing email, phishing protection, that was not there. They were in O365 platform, which provides you the conditional access, but it was partially configured. Like login could happen from any devices instead of controlling it to your corporate devices. Then geolocation was not enabled. So those are the things they had not configured it properly. There was another, since we talked about the issue that happened past, there was a recommendation to reduce the session token. Earlier it was 60 days, it remained 60 days, and that was one of the major issue of having this to and fro. And the next is on the centralized logging monitoring. There was no logging and monitoring at this place because they had the same solution just for the check in the box in-house Wazoo. But then there were no monitoring happening. If it would have been a case, they would have identified that there are malicious sign-in happening from different geographies. What are the lessons learned that we could see here? There was an involvement from the executive level. The board was later on informed that we had lost this money, and they were all into it. Let's try to resolve onboard the team. But there were no crisis management policy or rule book there, that who needs to take in charge of it. So that's one of the things. Another is that if they would have onboarded a retainer service, they would have immediately started the investigation, and that would have led to quicker response to the law enforcement regulator to recover the money. The next is to reach out to law enforcement in timely manner, which CP already has covered, that do not wait to find an RCA. The moment you realize that you have been duped to transfer money to fraudulent bank account, please do it, inform them immediately. Incident must be communicated to board regardless of its financial impact. Earlier they didn't inform it. This time they informed, and board realized that if it had happened before, why didn't you take action properly? The technical recommendations is like tool are as good as you configure them. There were default configurations in place, though you were using high-end services from Microsoft, but it's of no use when you do not optimize them. Like aligning session token lifetime to restrict unauthorized access, then implement outbound email logging features to identify any abnormality or sending pattern. So yeah, that's it from my side. CP, you can take up the crisis.
So what we are going to do is that we are going to now do a case, simple, where I need your interactive communication. What you can do is that it will just take a phone, and we have a site called as Mentimeter. So you have to go to menti.com, and there will be a code, and then you can type your responses. So let's quickly start with that. You can go to PPT. Yeah. So okay. So this is a fictitious company. Let's call it FirstSight Global Limited. It's a financial advisory and data analytics. Yes, we will open it up again. Don't worry. Yeah. So suppose it's a kind of cutting-edge data intelligence research and analytics solution firm. A lot of financial companies are its client. Its clients include commercial investment bank, insurance, private equity, asset management. You can say like any other credit agency plus other firm. So they are listed company, $5 billion revenue, $20 billion market cap, listed both in NSE and BSE. They have 7 critical applications which are client-facing and 5,000 plus workforce. So it's a fictitious company. Now suppose this company identifies a ransomware attack. It's a Friday morning, FirstSight Global's Mumbai office, and what they identified is that the DevOps team was monitoring that overnight deployments of the application which is being used is not working appropriately, right? At 10:30 a.m., SOC team also notified them there is an outbound traffic from this finance application to an unknown IP. Then they identified that this finance application is now no more accessible, which means that when users are trying to log in, it's not available. They identified that the backend database is corrupt, application configuration and binaries are encrypted, and then application team, when they tried logging in through PIM tool, they could not. When they logged in through console, they saw this, that your files are encrypted, you have been hit by this ransomware, and you have to go to this link. The link is of dark web to discuss about it, and you have to pay 10 bitcoins, right? A typical ransomware type of situation, that is what it happens. Now, after this, within 40 minutes, the incident was declared. It was declared with a high criticality, and as soon as it was declared, the CISO did the first thing, right? And what is the first thing we have to do? Isolate. So let's see what we have to do. CISO was alerted, CISO raised an incident with high priority, and he also invoked the crisis, right? So now, this is what the Menti is. You can enter this code, menti.com. You will start seeing the question, and with each question, we will give 1 minute, and then we will do a 1-minute briefing. This is also a real-life case, by the way. Only thing is that it didn't happen through application. It happened through application, but it was not a credit rating agency, and it happened through Azure AD. So the compromise happens via Azure AD, and then the domain sync was enabled, through which the entire domain got compromised. Okay, we are done? Yes, menti.com this? Okay, let's see. So what should be the first response of the incident response team? Now there are 3 options. See, option 1 and 2 are very interesting, right? You can isolate the infected system and continue operation because you don't know whether this is only finance application or not. Now, if you isolate everything, then indirectly you are telling your systems are down and clients will know and users will know. You don't want to create a panic. At this point in time, this is the only info you have. Yeah, we have to go back? Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, you can scan also the barcode.
Or you can go to the website and enter the code. The code would be
or
displayed.
you can just open the browser, go to menti.com and put this code. Because it will only ask for code if you go to menti.com. Yeah. No, yes, you have to click next and then you will see this. Okay, so people have started putting, see, I was telling that you have one option, isolate the infectious system, continue operation, but parallelly you have to validate whether the incident is only to this or to larger one. Or you can also shut down the network. See, many people may say that I will shut down the network because it's a ransomware. Ransomware by nature will do lateral movement. There is a high chance that within no time this would propagate to other servers. Let me shut down the system. There may be another school of thought saying that why are you creating panic? We don't know yet. What if this is a one application issue? Maybe because of DevOps. Secondly, it is possible that only that application's credentials might be in the Git or in DevOps which might have got compromised, or it may be hard-coded. Somebody would have read. So 2 schools of thought, right? You will have people who will say shut down everything, it's a ransomware, we don't know, unless we investigate, let's not do it. At least for 2 hours, let's shut down. We can always see we are under maintenance, something has happened. And then there can be another thing, we will say that, then it will spread. Because not only external, internally also there will be chaos, right? Everybody will say why this site is down. So many people have responded. I think most people have responded appropriately, saying that you have to isolate the infectious system, continue operation. That is what our recommendation is also, that when you isolate an incident, but what you should do is that there are few things which are first. As soon as a ransomware hits, you will typically see what kind of ransomware. It is a logbait or a black cat. You will go to net, if it is generic, you will be able to identify all the IOCs. Say for example, logbait will always have rclone, it will have mimikatz, it will have some bloodhound, it will have netuse, those kind of files. You can start to put those into your EDR, start searching on other servers whether they are all free or not. So this is one thing that you can do immediately. Of course, then other things will take time. But for time being, we can say that answer 1 is also correct. Some people, as I said, answer 2 is also correct. It depends on perspective. But if you are in a critical business, if you are on a Monday morning, you are into financial transaction, you cannot shut it down. But if it is Friday evening when you know the transaction not happening, you may take a call that it's already 7 o'clock or, let me do it. So sometimes it's called. Inform senior management, wait for instruction is very different, because then you are not really prepared for the crisis. So let's see the second thing, what has happened. Now if you go back, suppose we say the answer is number 1, we isolated. Now we have done the initial analysis. Now we revealed that there are 3 more servers in the same subnet, they are also encrypted. Now what you have done is that your entire subnet you isolated. So you had an application server, they were all connected to internet, it was a DMZ. We said that there are 7 applications. 3 of the applications found to be compromised. Now what you have done is that you have isolated each server independently, even though you say a subnet, means through firewall, but all systems are isolated independently. What you should do follow up. Now you are already on second hour, right? One option is, let me invoke a BCP and pray that the DR systems will be up and running, right? You can activate the cyber crisis management team, which means now it's a crisis. It's no more a one incident. It was a high priority. As soon as it becomes crisis, management involves, right? You have something called as crisis management team, which will do technical response, management, regulatory response. But when it becomes a crisis, it goes to crisis governance team, which is generally chaired by CEO or an MD, generally. And CROs and CTOs are all a member of it, right? Let's see. You can also activate hyper monitoring. Okay, so activate cyber crisis management team. 4 people are saying, some are saying activate hyper monitoring, verify logs. You can select 2 also, I believe. So I think, answer is again is all, in fact. You can select 3 also. Because see, while you will activate the cyber crisis management team, you will immediately go. If it is a ransomware which has impacted your Active Directory and your mails are also gone for a toss, obviously then you have to go to cloud and then cloud-based tools. Because what happens when you use O365? Your Teams, O365, Active Directory, everything gets logged. Then you are not able to really communicate. That's where you need certain other tools which are incident response war room where you can log in and communicate. So you will activate the crisis management team, you will start to have calls, you will call your IR support team if it's emergency response, IR retainer that. And you will also initiate a hyperactive monitoring because as soon as you start to gather certain IOCs, just monitor whether the other systems are also connecting to outside world, whether they are having malicious files. And you will also verify the logs of all security point tools, specifically 506. We will cover that part. Can we go back? No, go back to this. Yeah. Sorry. Go back to PPT, please. Yes. So, see, generally this is what we say you should do. As soon as something goes wrong, specifically on the ransomware, you know that the privilege escalation would have happened. Encryption cannot happen on the system unless you are an admin. Which means as soon as you become admin, you have to see local privilege escalation happened with which user. You have to identify the user compromise, immediately go to your Active Directory, identify there is a remote logon event, correlate with PowerShell block logging to see if there was forward replication to other Active Directory. You have to see if there are service accounts which have got interactive logon. You have to see child process created through WMI because through Windows management instrumentation through command line also you can create a user. You can also use tools like password dump. You can see Bloodhound and AD-Find to see Active Directory infiltration. You can identify executables in the temp folder, or you can also identify group policy changes. So there are 7-8 things that you have to do on the Active Directory, which means are the users created through PowerShell or through WMI, or the WMIX is there, or PSXX is there, or Bloodhound is there. On malware analysis too, you can immediately see if you can isolate the system, do a reverse malware analysis to identify static things like are there hard-coded IPs? If not, there may be URLs, and it may be doing fast flux DNS, which means trying to connect to outside world to command and control. You can check outbound communication from that or startup files because when they have to maintain persistent, they will do registry setting chain. They will do run once equal to 1 so that every time you boot, systems start to connect back to the command and control. You can obtain the hash value of the file. You can see in virus total, and it also you can see delivery times. You can also verify if there are file system calls, network connections also which are unauthorized. On the EDR, you can look for Kerberos roasting attempt. You can look for 4672, which is specially privilege is assigned to a new logon. You can look for command files, PSXX, NTDL utility, which is for volume shadow copy. This is the first thing that they do because they know if you have to rebuild Active Directory or application IDs, you will be doing the restoration of system state data in Active Directory and the volume shadow copy. Local privilege escalation, you have to become an admin to do that, and you have to identify the various suspicious tasks and all the tools like Mimikatz, Process Explorer, Gamer, Hacker, IOBit, etc. And other tools also you can see proxy, SSL, bypass, large HTTP packets for data exfiltration, DNS tunneling. You can identify fast flux DNS. You can identify those IOCs with the cement block. So this is a part of playbook. Generally, we say that as soon as you identify a ransomware attack on the AD, EDR, proxy, and 1 or 2 more tools like firewall, these are the searches you should do. If possible, it will give you an IOC way faster. Maybe by 3rd hour, at least you will have indicator of compromise. Parallel, you should also do a dark web scan so that if there is a data exfiltration happened, whether you can get to know. How we can leverage AI, we are also leveraging artificial intelligence now to do this. And this will help you do things much faster. Say for example, Alok gave an example of business email compromise. If you identify business email compromise, you have say 10,000 emails of last 3 months. You cannot manually identify. If you throw the entire 10,000 emails to an AI, it will be able to identify attachments of documents which are going to the third party or phishing links. And it can tell you that these are external domain email IDs out of 10,000, say 1,000. Out of this 1,000, 500 domain names are registered for more than a year, so they don't look malicious. These 50 domains are less than 2 months old. Maybe they are malicious, out of which these are where attachments and executables are there. That will help you save time because a system and AI can throw all of this information in 10 minutes flat. You can also feed all the logs to the data collection engine, like we also have AIM Assist. If you feed all the logs, you can query the logs for anything. It is like in any format, whether it's a JSON format or an Excel or CSV, you are asking, show me the user activity from this date to this date. Show me users of engineering accessing finance server. Show me user who have accessed the finance server which have never accessed. It will throw you that these are the unique users who have never accessed this application. That will actually tell you how fast you can really get it. So it will help you in data collection, anomaly detection, even image and file analysis, pattern analysis, like root causes based on historical patterns, hypothesis, correlation for desperate points of predictive analytics too, and timeline reconstruction. This is very important. I throw 10,000 emails, it does such a timeline and share, this was the first email. Then after this, all the emails, these are the chain of emails when you are interacting with this malicious or spoof domain. And this was getting constructed, and these were the documents, and these were the bank payment details that were getting sent. So I can do a construction of a timeline generation to identify timeline series chart. So now let's quickly see the fourth. Suppose now you have done all this, right? You identified that it's a ransomware, it has impacted, my AD is impacted. Though you have indicator of compromise, what you will do now? Yeah. Okay, so people have done, okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. So initial analysis, yeah, this was?
Yeah, this is the question.
Technical team has identified indicator of compromise and indicator of attacks. Insights entered as next fourth hour. Will you invoke a business continuity plan? You will implement TTPs. TTPs mean techniques, procedures, right? And indicator of attack and indicator of compromise, or you will create parallel system, or you will still validate the system and impact on even supply chain and consumer. You can select multiple options. Yeah, we can go and see how people are selecting. Okay. You can select 3 also. All 4 too. Okay, so many people are saying invoke business continuity plan. Anybody who disagrees with this? Anybody who just want to say, I will not invoke? Maybe the disaster recovery site is also impacted, right? So without validation, without IOC validation, TTP update, if you just invoke it, within 20 minutes or half an hour, you will identify that are also impacted. Maybe your backups are also impacted. You are doing parallel setup. But then what if you restore and then you identify the binaries that were compromised are actually in the application binaries ke saath mein, the supply chain, because of that binary is also there, right? So I would say that yes, you can invoke business continuity plan, but once you isolate your system, you have to rebuild, and then you have to test the data, update the IOC, scan it, all in an isolated environment, we are very sure. Then you can do hyper monitoring and then enable your server. So many people do this, wherein they are actually doing everything in an isolated environment. That's why this concept has also come called as isolated recovery environment, where people keep a copy of the entire backup, and there are multiple types of backup. It's a VMware server image. You can take snapshots so that you don't have to enable the server again, install an operating system and application and configuration. You can just blow that VM image through VMware system itself, and your server is up and running. There are database snapshotting technology which can take you to every half an hour back database. Oracle has also come as something called as zero data loss, environment, wherein if they identify malicious executables, input-output operations, or something in the binary, they will stop replicating the database and alert you. So there are solutions which are available where you can restore the entire system, plus you can restore the data faster in a clean room. And clean room is a place where you have some servers and you can rebuild. Because one of the critical things is that when people say parallelly rebuild, do you have that many servers? On the load balancer, I have say 20 AIX servers. Where do I have 20 spare AIX server where I'm going to parallelly rebuild? People then say, rebuild in DR. DR might have 7, 8 servers, but you want to rebuild there. Or you want to say, I will keep few servers for forensics and let me rebuild others. So multiple things, right? That's why you may need an IRE, or you may need to have a plan to use the infrastructure of a DR. That's why this. Identify B, C, and D to large extent, I will say yes. A, I will say that do it little later, because if B is not done, if you are not identified and implemented TTPs and IOCs to all non-secure systems, and then you can also implement on the parallel recovery. Before that, don't do. If you do it, again, answer is not right or wrong. It's just that the probability of any system which is connected getting impacted is very high. So let's see next. Now there is a deadline of 6 hours. We know that we have to inform CERT. Regulator is also coming in. You still do not know from where this malware has come, which was the patient 0, which was the first system infected, which was the first user impacted. What you will do? You will perform a detailed log analysis of all suspected system to arrive at root cause. Same thing. Should I at least have some root cause? What should I tell? In a CERT, what has happened? 3 applications got infected. What you have done? Isolated in forensics. Actually, that is sufficient. You can add on more. You are a listed company, okay? Yeah, go back. Yeah. You can inform internal employees and other stakeholders about unavailability of system or inform regulators and provide holding statements. Right? So you can do anything. You can do retail because it's 6 hours. You are a listed company, right? You are listed in NSE and BSE. See, if you have to inform SEBI, you have to give a report in 21 days, but you have to inform SEBI within 24 hours. You know that if you inform CERT, if you inform SEBI, if you inform cyber insurance provider, it's possible that you may be in news, it will become public. And do you want to proactively manage and release a statement to press? Do you at least want to inform internal employees? Because they don't know what's happening. You would have changed the website saying that application under maintenance and tell employees that yes, there is some technical glitch. Or you want to inform regulators but with a holding statement to all other stakeholders. What do you want to do? Let's go back. Okay, so 9, okay. So we are having 36 odd people, but only 16 responses. Okay. 17, can we get 3 or 4 more? Then we can start, okay. Yeah. So see, many people are saying first and even fourth, but third also. Yeah, so I think except 2 people are saying inform press, I will also say prematurely, don't do that. It is not necessary that if you inform SEBI or inform CERT, it will become public. Not really. So holding statement is the correct answer. You should give only that information which is necessary. So that's why if you see, you will have a holding statement in your cyber crisis also, saying that a cyber incident has occurred this time to this time. We are investigating onboarded forensics, we will update you on the next steps. And this is a holding statement. To regulator, you may want to inform little more, right? Saying that these systems were impacted. This is what we have done. We are investigating. Maybe little more, right? But not more because you don't know for sure. And whatever you inform, you have to have a lot of surety. Okay, so we can go back. I think so 20 is the right answer and first is also the right answer. Only thing is that I will not issue a press statement. Rest all 3 I can do. And internal also you should inform. If you don't inform, you will see that people will start communicating. You don't know. Some people might even go to social media and saying, I am in office since our 6 hours. All systems are down. We are not able to work. You never know, and people may tag it. Now, yeah, so we have done this. Okay, so that ends our technical part of it. I created it into 2 parts. Of course, there was a lot more activities that we can do to identify root cause, and I can give a lot of playbook related answers. But what I also wanted to do in the interest of time is that break it into crisis communication. Because what we have seen is that communication is extremely, extremely important, where how you are communicating, what you are communicating, and to which stakeholders. If you are an IT company where the customers are in US and UK, you are bound to give them 24 to 48 hour responses and inform about cyber incidents. But who will do that? Typically, your lead client service partners do that. You might have contractual obligations, may not be regulatory. But because you are in India and you are compromised and you are listed here, it might be India also. So what generally we say that you should have a very properly created cyber crisis communication plan where you should have a simple table saying that these are the 10 people whom I need to inform. This is the timeline. These are the people who will inform, and these are my holding statements. How much information to give to whom? So that when something goes wrong, if you are a bank, I have to inform RBI, but I have to inform via Daksh, and it is my compliance team who is going to inform. If CERT, this is the email ID, this is the form I need to fill, and it is the CISO who is going to do it, and the timeline is 6 hours. If I have to inform IRDA, then this, customers this, stakeholders this. If you have this, that's the first part that communication is appropriate. Second, senior management communication should happen via seniors. Social media communication should not happen by anybody other than your corporate communication team. Typically with regulators and cyber insurance, your compliance team should get, because you are answering technically, you may go get it something wrong. Let the people who are expert do it. And if it is cross-border, money involved, have your legal counsel do it for you. So we will see this. We can see the next part of it. Now we will look at some part of communication. Whenever you communicate, you have to ensure that you have a credibility of statement. If you give inappropriate information, if you know about an attack, you don't give. You know, many cases have happened where the even CISO is jailed, right? There is a case where CEO was fired, Equifax. If you do not give information to the regulator, you may be subject to penalty. Or if you know, but you are informing it, saying that technical glitch, but not technically cyber, or lot of data is lost. You know about it, but you are not telling them. Maybe it's a stale data or whatever. Credibility of statement is extremely important. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult even with the regulator. I think I have dealt with regulators. Till the time you are open and honest, they generally treat you well. When you start to hide, not give direct information, you will see they are asking more and more and more, and then you will delay it a lot. Focus on your customer, which means that whether your customer is a third party or whether your customer is, if it is a bank, it's an endpoint, end user. Then communication is very different. Whether you want to do it email or you want to create a website, 50,000 accounts got compromised, etc. is a different thing. We will see that, admission of responsibility. If you know that our controls have failed, do not try to say something has happened, we are not responsible, we have done everything. Because people then treat it like you are trying to evade the responsibility, put it onto a third party, or you are just saying that people were not careful, etc. Don't try to downplay. Don't try to give a media spin. Of course, if it is really, I don't want to name it, you've seen all, one of the insurance companies where somebody said CISO is involved, he sold me, I paid him $45,000. Everybody knows how it was dealt with, For 2 months, there was no information, forensic investigation was happening. So don't try to downplay or also not try to not disclose or delay it. So let's see. What should be the immediate response if you have to read the excess cyber crisis communication, right? What will you say? Same incident has happened. Now we are dealing with communication. You will issue the notification to certain, you will identify the stakeholder to be involved, you will investigate further to understand the impact and then see, or you will lodge a cyber complaint in cybercrime.go.in, or you will refer the cyber crisis management plan and take necessary action. Let's see, okay, what people are saying. You can vote it. There are 37 people. Yeah. If we get 15, 10, 12, we can just move on. Yes, I think this is also appropriate. And you can select multiples also because there are 3, 4 right answers. Yes. So I think, in my opinion, almost all the answers are correct except the identify the stakeholders to be involved, and I will tell you why. In the crisis, if you are really identifying now who needs to be involved, it means you have some problem. So when you create a playbook, you create a playbook for ransomware, who are supposed to be informed, DDoS attacks, data leakage, business email compromises, or insider threat and third party or systems or application being down. Generally, you have 7, 8 categories and you will have a playbook. Right? If you are really now trying to identify whom I should involve, then they don't know their roles, responsibilities, I don't know what will happen. You will create a bit of chaotic situation. Rest all are right. Some people might say, if it is not money, let me not involve cyber cell, may or may not be. But generally what we say is that it's better to tell rather than later on worrying. Of course, till the time you have time, you can discuss, and then whoever is the chairing can take a decision. We can move on to the presentation back. Yeah. So, yeah. And another important thing is who will initiate the communication. So all of this has to be done by different people. Crisis management plan, the chairperson will be cyber governance team, which is typically a CRO, an MD or CEO. Certain notification might be done by the CISO. Investigate further, still CISO might be leading it. Complaint cell may be done by a legal, because then you have to fill appropriately with what information you know, right? So this is the typical, corporate communication, security incident response, communication, I would say, framework, where we say pre-event, what you should do during incident, what you should do in post-incident. But in a nutshell, if I have to, make it simple, pre-event, you have to prioritize the incident and you have to focus on a lot of other things, which means protecting the data subject. If data leak has happened, are you sure the data was encrypted? Has the data gone out which is unencrypted and already leaked something sensitive? Your response will be very different versus if it is encrypted and it is leaked. Second, your response of managing stakeholders or minimizing damage to reputation, protecting sales, legal obligation, all will depend on that. So if you do not inform the data subjects, now of course India does not have a privacy law, but if your customers are in UK, you may be even facing class action suits, you may be facing legal suits, so sometimes they are huge. Regulatory penalties are also huge, right? So what you should do is that you should very clearly know that if I have 20 customers or what kind of data I am capturing based on that, what are my obligations? Your obligations with contract to inform, and your obligations to inform regulator, and your obligation to inform data subject. Suppose in India the privacy law is there, and you are supposed to inform, and you are a bank, and 50,000 data has been lost because one of your migration servers you were doing with the cloud and got exploited, right? Now 50,000 details has gone with name, addresses, whatever, account number, etc. While you are asking them to change the password, you are sending them new debit cards. Are you admitting some responsibility? Are you communicating proactively? Are you doing one-to-one, or you just put up a website saying this is what you have to do? Or you're doing generic? Lot of this thing, communication will actually decide what is your reputation and what is right and wrong, right? You may have a lot of backlash if you do not communicate this properly. Like my bank account credentials are gone and you are not even telling me, go and change the password without informing me or admitting responsibility. With a simple message might also be different. Or you want to scale up your call center and say, a lot of calls will come, let's accept this, or let me proactively call. You can do many things. And you will face a different kind of customer. Some customers may just be, shut down my account. I want to withdraw all the money. So you have to find a balance, how you want to deal with end users which we do not understand. So how is personal data encrypted, security gaps, etc., right? So during incident also, who is affected? Is the data sufficiently encrypted? How much data has been lost? What are industry specific rules? What jurisdiction you fall into? And whether you should consider yes or no. Yes will depend on regulatory requirements, data subject requirements, and media perspective. If the size of breach is huge, do not try to underestimate. If you have to inform, of course, disclosure norms are not there in India, but generally, this framework is applicable elsewhere too, where you are supposed to inform, right? You are a Marks and Spencer, just like what has happened. You lose millions of customers' personal data. You can't just be saying that I will not inform the data subject as well as the regulator. You have to inform, and you have to issue the statement also that 2.7 GB of data is lost. It's fine. This is what the data we have lost. You should be transparently saying that this is what has happened. So you should accept the responsibility. You are custodian of the data. You should apologize. Do not try to downplay. You also have to understand the address of vulnerability of data subjects and appropriately do it. So your mail has to be assuring that your money and everything is safe. Only your data has gone out. We are replacing it and we have blocked it. Now this gives me some sort of assurance versus saying go and change your password, or saying that I'm shipping a new credit card. It looks like your name and address and credit card details have gone out. So that makes a lot of difference versus how you really frame the message and how you communicate. And you can't blame others. And then these are aggravating factors. Now this is third, what you need to disclose. Notify publicly quickly when you need to be. Of course, I said there are considerations. I am not saying that anything happens, go. It depends on what data has gone out. If it is a huge volume, it impacts, then you should actually go back. You can address vulnerability feelings, which I just gave an example. Data subject shares first, frame public opinion, insider trading rules, and all these things. Whether you want to do direct email, surface email, or a website or a telephone, all depends on the impact and to whom the impact has happened. Or you can do indirect and prepare for certain reactions also. So you will have a reaction from social, you will have to scale up your website, you have to scale up your call center, you have to scale up your number of hits, and see simple messages, avoid jargon, senior people to deliver, show some seriousness, reconfirm the breach, etc. So now suppose, in the same thing, we have response technically, we have done the investigation, we have done forensics, we have started to rebuild the systems, recovery is happening in isolated environment. Now you know that it is going to take 24 hours. But suppose for time being, right, that hacker has also understood that you are not going to pay, right? He encrypted, he put up a mark, you took one day to isolate the system, rebuild, inform emergency response team. You have done all the right things. Notified the regulator. Hackers also know what the typical 72 hours, police ko batana nahi ho, wahan pe aa jana paisa leke. So there has to be time, and it has to be time sensitive. Hackers also know that if you don't pay within 24 to 48 hours, largely you are not going to pay. He also understands you are rebuilding the systems. What he does, he will say, here is the 10 MB of data. I am going to put it on social media. Next 4 hours, you pay me 10 Bitcoins. If you don't do, I will put it. Because that's the only way when you can put a pressure. And second thing, he will actually disclose and say that now I have 2 GB. Do you want me to do it? You may face class action suits. Or all of your data will be public on the Telegram channel. I will put all of your policy details, including medical history. Can you afford for a reputation loss? So whether to pay or ransom or not pay, it is not just about data. You might have a copy of data, you may be able to restore, but it is just the reputation. So let's see what will happen. This is what hacker has done. He said, see this, their guys' application servers are down. Actually, I have hacked into it. They are rebuilding it. I have your data. Here is my 10 MB of data. And people are now reacting. Bank is down, never exposed, to be down. I don't know how this is allowed, so many these things. Now what are you going to do? It's trending. Over the last couple of hours, communication team is saying we are increasing social media posts complaining about we are not operational. How should your internal stakeholders being communicated? Internal stakeholders should refrain from communicating, prepare senior management, communication department should issue, and stakeholders should independently comment. Why I mentioned independently? Hacker is smart. If you see, when they will put up, they will tag the CEO, the CTO, the CRO, couple of board members. Now, because you may feel that he has tagged me, I should respond. So, do people who are tagged should respond independently? Or maybe the CEO respond, it puts a lot of, weight. It is coming from senior management. Or communication department should issue. Okay, communication department should, only 4, 5, 7, 9, yes, that's good. At least we should have 20. Still only 12. Nobody is saying stakeholders should independently comment. We like to comment, right? My voice matters. No, he's saying, I will shut up. Okay. Yeah, so I think a lot of people are saying, which are right, that communication department should issue. We generally say senior management also should not issue this statement. They should converse with regulators or with board is a different thing. When we say social media, we don't want senior management people actually to come out and start communicating. Let the social media guys go. And what will they communicate? What should you write on the social media? Suppose if this happens, anybody wants to pick up a mic and just say, oh, we have been hacked. We don't know who hacked us. Maybe after 2 hours, but you have to be very sure that after 2 hours we will be up and running. So this will put credibility. After 4 hours, if your systems are not up, people will say that they don't know what they are doing. Yeah, but in ransomware incidents, your RTO RPO does not apply because your DCDR both are down. So RTO RPO is when your DR is there. Cyber crisis, everything can go for a toss. There was a financial institute invested by a Japanese firm in India down for 16 days. Pretty large, listed company, right? You can have those kind of things. So,
CP, there's a response.
Yes. Question, okay? Yes.
So I think what we communicate on social media through our official channel should depict two things. One, what our industry type is. So see, for a PR agency, a response can be very different than for a giant tech company. And secondly, who our target or who is our consumer base, who are our customers. So if our customers are a very much younger audience, so our response to a cyber attack should depict to something that they can understand.
Yeah, but in this case, your customers are largely, if you see, corporates, right? Because you saw what we said, gain side. Working with corporates, working with investment firms, working with regulators, right? They are doing credit risk, credit agency. So corporate bonds, and they are doing financial diligence and giving ratings, right? And raising money. So it's like a kind of B2B, not so much B2C, but they are listed, which means that there are stakeholders outside of it. NSE, BSE, which means SEBI, and market intermediaries too. So in this case, you have to be a little bit more cautious, but social media also means a lot of reputation. And if somebody has put in, if you do not respond, that is also not appropriate. It means you are indirectly saying whatever he is saying is right. So ideal answer is, yes, you should, he rightly said the first part of it, that you should give a holding statement saying our systems are down, We are investigating the cause, and we will let you know as soon as we discover further. Watch this channel, watch this thing, and we will communicate appropriately. What it means that you are telling that right now we may not be knowing, it's down because of technical or cyber. We are working with XYZ firms, to make it up and running and be up. And you monitor this, we will further communicate. So indirectly you are giving some sort of, or you can give holding statement because somebody has put, you can give assuring holding statement also. Saying that yes, we have gone through a cyber incident, we have onboarded a right incident response and forensic agency, we are in the mid of investigation and we will communicate appropriately about the state of affairs. And that is also appropriate because what else? You are admitting responsibility, you are saying that yes, it has happened, but we are working to make systems up and running. That is also perfectly fine because it's a public news, right? Now, suppose there are multiple former employees whom you would have fired because of slowdown, and some of them are senior, and they are also wanting to vent their anger. So they wrote that I know this company, they always go through changes very fast, they are always putting pressure on technology team, and they don't do security testing appropriately, they don't even care for customers, that has been their attitude. The CEO is very aggressive, now what he will do? And he is tagged also, 4 people. So what do you believe we should do? So we have seen tweets of former employees, they are saying you ignore cybersecurity. Will you respond to ex-employees? What is the option? Refrain from responding to individual tweet, just issue a holding statement, or you prepare senior management to respond, or communication department again should issue a response, or stakeholders should independently comment, those who are worked with them. Okay, let's see. We have 41 respondents who are logged in. Yeah. Refrain from responding to, you can select multiple also. I think people are selecting only one. You can select multiple. You can have 2 things. It's only allowing one. Okay. So I think first part is appropriate. We still have 12. 16. Let least be 20. Communication department. Okay. I think we should have put 2, but anyways. Yeah, can we have 3, 4 more? Yeah, we can have 20, 21, half of it. Yeah. Now we can say. Okay, so I think, stakeholders should independently comment is not the right thing because what happens is that communication should always come through communication department. If you have independently people, even if you feed them, you may feel that if independently people respond, it will feel genuinity. But see, the rule of the game in the cyber crisis typically is that you should not engage with people who are putting up, claims, they are ex-employees, they don't know. As soon as you start engaging with them, believe me, they will also respond. They may give some incident. And then you are indirectly engaging. The very first rule is that with this kind of things, you should not engage at all. Second thing is that don't comment independently. But if you have to give a statement, again it is to be holding statement. We as a responsible firm have taken this security measures. We are certified on this. We have done this. Our regularly systems are audited. We have experienced this, we will be back, finish. That too depends on how many ex-employees and whether their weightage and are they really trending. If it is like 1 odd, you don't even need to care. But if it is many, some of them very senior, tagging it, then probably you may. But then at that time also, you should put. So it's all a bit situational, right? But answer is that fun, don't engage directly. Second, put up a holding statement with some credibility. Third, don't give too much information. You don't need to engage at all. Because your audience is mature to large extent, right? It's corporate. Even if it is end user, this is not, I am right or I am wrong. You don't have to prove it. So let's see. Communication to regulators, as we say, note to the regulators should be like this. Cyber incident occurred yesterday at 10 a.m. leading to outage of few systems. Incident is under investigation. We are working to restore the system. Priority, we onboarded a forensics partner to independently investigate. And then we are rebuilding the systems and we will update. And then you can fill up a form, which system, which application, whatever they need. But the holding statements are like this. If you are communicating to anybody else little bit more in detail, there is a compliance officer, then you can give little more information if it has already gone public, right? We are actively investigation, working to resolve the situation. We have robust security controls and data security restoration controls implemented. We will provide further updates as the situation progresses. So what you are doing, you are putting credibility. You are saying that we know what we are doing. We are a responsible organization, and we will communicate as further goes. So that shows the maturity, but don't engage, with people. So this specifically I am saying because there are certain incidents which have happened where for this insurance company, where CISO was blamed, there was a note in a lot of newspapers, then there was a government site that was hacked, and then there were certain intellectual property that was lost, and then the case was filed in the court, so on and so forth. So the idea is that our communication also is as important as really we believe that, the technical response is important. So with that, I will end. We have 5 more minutes. If you have questions or if you want to comment or, if you want to know anything, more than glad I can take up 2 or 3 questions and answer them. Yeah. It can be technical. We can answer them, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can put your
First
name.
of all, great
so that
session. So kudos to you.
Thank
Second
you.
thing, my question is when it comes to communication. When it comes to communication to the stakeholders and the regulators, the debate comes is what is a material incident or how to
Yes.
define the materiality, because some of the regulations says that only material incidents should be
Correct.
responded in this much of time period. So
Correct.
who does that and how to go about?
Yeah. So see, there are 2, 3 ways. If you ask me very technical thing, like what we write in our incident response plan is that you should only report critical and high incident to say even regulators. Medium, low incident, one minor malware attack or once somebody lost your laptop also a security incident. Some small data loss here and there or password crack is also security incident, but we don't keep on responding, right? So what is material incident? Typically it depends on 4 types of impact. That's what we generally write and we create a matrix. Financial impact, operational impact, regulatory impact, and reputational impact. Okay, and there are ways and means by which you can say financial impact. It means it is impacting $1 million or depending on the size of organization, you can generally say that it is X. Regulatory impact, if it is regulatory penalty or there are certain regulatory punities that may come into it, which may be heightened monitoring or a lot of responses, etc. And it can be operational impact. My systems are going to be down for 10 minutes or 1 hour, 2 hours. Then you know that it's operational impact and I have to be made it critical and then I have to inform. So if one of the internal UAT server is down for 2 hours, it may be because of security incidents. Your UAT may not have right controls. And we have seen many cases where UAT environment has been compromised when they were doing some data or they were parting with third party or they do not have multi-factor and they want people to work from home and UAT got compromised. But UAT is not production. If there is no sensitive information, no data loss, it's a medium incident, you are taking care of it, and we also tell that you may or may not need to inform the regulator. If you need to inform, you can say one of the UAT. Even regulator will not pay that much hidden attention. They will say, "Sir, okay, theek hai, ho gaya," because there was no production impact. So if you put it into this framework and say that it is a medium incident, and if your policy very clearly says that critical and high incidents I will inform, others I will not, you will always have a restoration. I would like to point one very important thing here. See what happens, suppose this privacy law also has certain things. They say that you need to have reasonable controls. Suppose you did not have some control and who is going to decide what is reasonable? You did disk encryption, you did application encryption, skilled data got lost because the keys were compromised. What is reasonable? So sometimes what happens is that if you write in policy, somebody can challenge. Get a legal opinion. When you write it, a legal opinion document saying that XXXXXX, you have done whatever. Or you take another example, you are supposed to inform about consent to people, but suppose you are a bank 30-year-old, what you will do with people who are not giving consent or who are not logging on for 6 months? How are you going to do? Is there a legal opinion or I am deciding? Will somebody come and say that you have not taken the consent, you are not following the DPD Act? In those cases, when you have this legal opinion, no, that becomes your one way to hide because they are not subject to the same thing like your decision making on the authority. So that's how you should make it. Means if it is critical high, follow this simple framework. I think all incident response forensics generally have this kind of some sort of, people may say CIA, people may say system databases or downtime. They may have availability, confidentiality, integrity, and say sensitive data, data integrity or financial data, and then they will say availability if it is more than 2% systems are impacted beyond 2 hours, then I will treat it as critical. And so you can have anything, but you will have some sort of definition to say this incident is critical or high. If it is critical or high, then only you report. So you have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your learnings, right? Actually, the real life is something people miss. So I just one question, like typically we see all malwares, affecting Windows system predominantly, right? But what is your real life experience about say rootkits or either the non-Windows, right? How easily they are affected and, What is your real life experience?
Yeah, so you're right. 70% of the ransomware attacks we also seen which are Windows-based. In fact, if you see Lockbit 1 and 2, they were largely Windows-based. But if you see Lockbit 3 or you see Monty, they are now impacting AX also. Because we have to understand that why somebody is doing what they are doing. The idea is that typically your front-end systems are Windows, or your file systems or SharePoint or your invoicing system are Windows. When ransomware also attacks and gets into it, what they do? They want to do double extortion, which means that I want to encrypt so that availability is not there, but people will rebuild. So I also want to take some data out and extort money based on reputational and class action suits. What kind of data I want to extort? Extracting database, running queries with database activity, monitoring front-end Windows application, compromising those servers because they are not ready, extremely difficult. So what they do is that they take data from your invoicing because they know that invoice data will be there, or customer relationship, portals, etc., or documents management, where if you are opening a bank account, you have DMS where you put all PAN cards. If I get customer data, if you get your client data, if I get your SharePoint data, this is something that you will be willing to pay money for. So that is one thing that people see. So to answer your question, most of the databases are run on Linux or AIX, Oracle, for all banking, insurance, largely, So they impact Windows system, but largely they extract unencrypted, you can say that, which is not in unstructured data, right? But now you will see a lot of complex malware system, which you rightly said. Monty ransomware is one example, Black Cat. They are actually impacting Linux systems. They are impacting even virtual machines because a lot of things are being put on the cloud, and they are also impacting and compromising on the database also. We have very recently for one of the bank in the UAT environment has seen Monty ransomware attack doing on the AIX system on Oracle database. So answer is still yes, 20-30%. Largely it is Windows. Out of say 30-40 largish ransomware kits which are available like Logbits and Black Cats and what is Monty, most of them, 70% of them are still Windows based.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Now, that has to be supported by a,
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. It is coming.
yeah. So, when we talk about online processes, that also has to be supported by other communication channel also. Like, we should not rely only on this TCP/IP network or for this. There should be a
You are right.
phone connection. Or
Yes.
nowadays, many of the customers ask the bank to provide the details rather than customer providing the bank details. The bank provide the details of the customer that they are having their account in this our bank, and this is the valid account number.
Yeah.
So these are the checks and balances which are there. Even for GST, organization actually call up and ask for the GST number to be dictated on the call.
Yeah.
So those type of checks and balances are there. In spite of this, millions of dollars get lost. What is the logic behind? Because there is also should be supported processes like common sense also is there.
Yeah. So I will tell you three things which I have noted. One, this is mostly happening with promoter-driven companies. Because what happens, they believe in agility and they take a lot of decisions sometimes to make business faster and smoother. I have this top 10 vendors. I want to pay them on time. I want to pay them within 45 minutes. I want to have a good relationship. And I expect my B2B also. Generally, it happens in B2B. Second, what happens is that if I ask all these things, it becomes tedious, it becomes process-driven. While I may be a 2,000, 5,000 crore company in B2B, profitable by say 1,000 crore, but because I am not dealing with lot of vendors, I may not put a process. For 10 vendors, B2B, why should I put up a process? When I set up a factory, you supply material or you supply, so there are only 4 suppliers. There are only 10 suppliers, say for example. It's easy, right? So this is where we have seen the issues. What you rightly said that this company also, when they got hit, they changed the process, and the process then is that you will call the board line number, ask for the person, or you directly call the mobile, and then you will do a video call and confirm, have you sent this email? And second is that whenever you change, you send the past communication of the email and this present both at the same time, so that somebody else has received. So you are rightly said, currently the process is not being followed. I think we have run out of time, right? Is it? We have run out of time. The next session is there.
One question.
Yes, maybe I can take one more question, I think.
So, in middle of a cyber crisis, what is important, protecting a data, protecting reputation or customer trust?
See, everything is important to the best possible extent you can do it. Customer trust also generally garners